guys, welcome back to Saturday Night Cinema. As always, I am your host, Slayer Saint Sin. And on this episode, we're taking it to a little spacey, little sci-fi more than necessarily just typical horror. So we've got bad channels tonight. You know, in space, no one is safe from rock and roll. Anyways, you know, I love a good tagline that's got some nice little fun punniness to it. So, our studio tonight is Full Moon Entertainment, which has, you know, come out with classics such as Demonic Toys, and I mean, one of my favorite horror movie franchises, Puppet Master. I think they're so cute. I mean, who doesn't like puppets, right? Anyways, so they're the ones that brought us bad channels. Release date, which went straight to video, as a bunch of Full Moon Entertainment pictures have, was June 25th, 1992. And this has got one of the best soundtracks, I have to say. But we'll dive into that a little bit later. So our director is Ted, Nicolou, I think is how you pronounce it. So he did a lot of Full Moon features. He actually did one that's kind of like a sequel to this one, that has, it's Dead Man versus Demonic Toys. So some of the characters that are in bad channels are also in that movie. So I just found that out today, which means I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to go see it now. I'm going to have to look it up and find it. It's probably not one that's easy to find because I've never heard of it. So I'm just going to have to do a little search on the interwebs to find that one. So let's get into our cast. First, we have our leading man, Dangerous Dan O'Dare. Kind of like a Howard Stern type, if you will, in this movie. And he is played by Paul Hipp. We've got the fabulous, news anchor Lisa Cummings, who is played by Martha Quinn, which, if you were a child or young adult or, alive, right, when MTV started getting a lot of their VJs, she was one of the first ones. Actually, I think she was technically the first one that showed up on air. So you'll definitely recognize her. And then we have Corky, who is Dan O'Dare's, engineer in the booth, working all the electronics that, I wouldn't understand if I ever looked at them. He's played by Michael Huddleston. I don't know why that name always trips me up. Anything with a stin at the end of it, for some reason, gets my tongue all tripped up. We have Willis, who is only seen really briefly. He went to go get hamburgers, and then when he came back, he was pretty much done for. But he's played by Robert Factor. And then we have Vernon Lockhart, who is played by Aaron Lusting. If I'm not mistaken, Lockhart is the owner of the radio station. Superstation 666. Ha ha ha. Another one of those funny things. So there is 666 AM. It's supposed to be national, reach out nationwide, because they're the only radio station on that frequency. Which, I mean, There's probably a reason to that. No one wants to be on, you know, the Number of the Beast station. Although, you know, I feel like if someone did really do that nowadays, it would just need to be playing Iron Maiden or, you know, like the Number of the Beast over and over on repeat again, just to, you know, really drive home the station number. Or at least like every hour play it. And then play like, you know, Ozzy and Zeppelin, Deep Purple, you know, just like the, you know, the real classic demon, Satan, rock. Anyways, let's get on with the cast. Next we have Peanut, and Peanut is the owner of a truck stop. And he is played by Sonny Carl Davis. And he's like, he's a little bit of comic relief, which, I mean, let's be honest, this whole movie has some comic relief to it. But, like, he's, like, over the top kind of goofy in some scenarios where it's just like, I mean, maybe, like, chill a little bit, Peanut. Chill, just a little bit. And then we have Cookie, who is one of his waitresses. And she's played by Charlie. Good Lord. Charlie Spreadling. Spreadling? Now, if you watch the movie and you see her character, you'll know why I made sure that I read that correctly. Because, I mean, they definitely put her in the right, you know, character for that. Then we have Bunny, who is played by Daryl Stratus. We have Sheriff Hickman, who is played by Victor Rogers. Nurse Ginger. I think they used the term nurse pretty loosely in her character because I didn't really see her doing too much of like nurse activity. But she's played by Melissa Barr. Dr. Payne, right? I mean, it's kind of funny, right? Dr. Payne. He is played by Ian Patrick Williams. And then, I mean, technically our secondary leading man, supporting actor, whatever you want to call him. I mean, his face is hidden behind what I think is a meteor with a little, like, sun visor, like, screen, like, sunglass screen over it. But that is Cosmo, our alien. Is played by Michael Deek. And last but not least, I mean, he doesn't play, like, a huge role in this, but he plays the character Grits. His band plays in the diner scene. They're the first, like, performance in this. I mean, I guess technically, you could call Bad Channels a musical, like a horror comedy musical, because we do have 3 performances, like, you know, centered around music. So, so Grits and his band are shown, and Grits is played by Ron Keel. And the band of his that is featured in the truck stop scene is called Fair Game. Okay, so now this is where we're going to get into the soundtrack of it all. So first up, I have to mention that one of the, like, most iconic bands of classic rock history does the score for this. They do all of the ambiance music and the intro music and the outro music, and I mean, they wrote all of it, they played all of it. I mean, they're just amazing. And it's Blue Oyster Cult. BOC, baby. Listen, they're played a lot in my house. I mean, Don't Fear the Reaper is, I mean, it's on all of my playlists. All of them. And then, so like I said, truck stop band, fair game, Ron Keel. And so there's a scene in the gym, and what I like about this is they showcase not only like a certain genre. So like fair game is more like the hair metal, genre. And then we have the next band, which is DMT, and I haven't been able to I haven't found any more about them while searching. Like everything that I pull up isn't anything about this band. But they play in the gym, and they're more of the Seattle grunge feel to them. I have to say, like, it's become one of my favorite songs, and I can't even find it anywhere other than this movie. It's so annoying. And then, when I saw the name of this band, I was really confused because I spell it, like, a little differently. But they play in the hospital, and think, like, I can't really put my finger on it. I mean, they're like psychedelic funk metal, I think is what you would kind of classify that as. But they're like some of them are clowns, and one is dressed like a nun, because a little bit before that you see a nun going into a room. But one of them is dressed like a nun, but they're all like very theatrical in their appearance, and the song is super fun. It's so cool and different. Because I don't think that there were many like people in 1980 or 1992 that were playing like this kind of music. None really like pop out into my mind as like this like crazy funk psychedelic metal. But they're called Psychotic Symphony. Yeah. They're so cool. They're so cool. And then, so when we get into the movie, Dan O'Dare is doing he's doing a 24-hour of polka. And I think it's like 24 hours of the same, like, record. It's not even changing. It's just the same record. But we only hear like one of the songs, and that band, I couldn't find their name, but it's polka music. So let's get into like, the kind of plot here. So we see a guy going to, a power station, trying to check it out, see what's going on. There's sparks flying everywhere. And he sees this weird green thing sticking out from one of them. And then the next thing we know, he's like screaming. And then we see these red circle lights like in the air. Cut to Dangerous Dan O'Dare. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it like that every time I say his name, because I feel like it needs to be said like that. I mean, he is a radio DJ, for crying out loud. So he has himself chained up in Superstation 666. Also, I'm going to be saying that like that too. If you get annoyed, just bear with me, okay? Yeah, so he's chained up, and he will keep playing polka music for 24 hours until someone gets the right combination on that lock. So he's just like, whatever, like, come on, you guys, no one's doing it right, like, just give me a combination. And so, like, we cut, and, like, Peanut calls, and first off, Peanut has his freaking radio on way too high and gives so much feedback that it just, like, pierces everyone's ears. And Cookie's like, turn that shit down, Peanut. I feel like I've heard that somewhere before. anyways, sorry. Something in my memory. So, you know, and he gives, of course, he gives the wrong number. Bunny calls in, and Bunny gives what I assume are her measurements, if you know what I'm saying. She interrupts band practice to call a number to see if she can, he's giving away a car. He's giving away a car to the person who undoes it. Yeah, forgot to mention that. A car. And she doesn't get it right either. It's not her measurements. And so then we see Lisa, and Lisa's supposed to do an interview with him, and so she's talking to her, you know, main anchor who's in the studio, Philip. Oh, Philip. He's an arrogant little butthead. Anyways, enough about my distaste for him. So they get it all set up, and, you know, Dan's still, like, trying to take phone calls. He's getting phone calls from everywhere because, you know, they're the National Superstation 666. Yeah. 666. Okay, sorry. Anyways, so he's, like, in the middle of doing it, and they're about to, like, cut. And he's like, Flip, why don't you give me 3 numbers? And Flip's like, well, I don't know. The 1 and a 2 and a 3 come to mind. What do you know? Those are the numbers that undo the combination lock. Fishy, don't you think? So, of course, Lisa just knows that there was something up, and, you know, he does tell her, like, yeah, I mean, you know, we had an arrangement, we had an agreement. I didn't know he was going to win the car. Sure. And then we see the flashing red lights, and we're like, oh my gosh, what's that? And Lisa's like, oh my God, it's a UFO. And Dan's like, no, it is not. You're crazy. So the sheriff, you know, comes up, and he's like, okay, whatever. And, like, they, like, you know, he gets a call that there's a problem with the power station. So he goes down there, and they all go back in. Well, see, Lisa's cameraman had gone out to get hamburgers after they had wrapped, you know, and he comes up on his little, on like this little moped, and then he sees the alien, and the alien zaps him and he disappears. Drops the hamburgers. And he doesn't come back. Like, we don't know where he went at all. Like, he's gone. Just poof, and he's gone. Well, before the alien, like, gets into the building, we go back to the sheriff, and he's at the power station, and Lisa, of course, had to follow him there because she's like, I need to get the scoop on this. Ooh. Like, this is going to blow up my career. I'm going to get job offers from everywhere. I need to see what's going on. Well, the guy's like, well, he hit me in the, like, he just, like, zapped me with something. And the sheriff is like, are you sure you didn't get hit in the head? And he's like, no. And he rips open his chest, and there's, like, this green fungus just all over him. Very weird. Very gross. And he's like, as he, like, opens up his shirt, he's, like, screaming all crazy. So Lisa follows the sheriff to the hospital where, you know, they are going to look at this man's fungus. That's so gross. So as this is happening, the alien and his little robotic companion, I should say their names and not just the alien, Cosmo, and his little robot friend with the pink gooey brains that you can see inside. Well, his name is Lump. Yeah, Lump. They couldn't come up with a better name for this poor robot. He's just a lump. And they also have this like little like I can only say it looks to be like the first Roomba. Like iRobot Roomba, it got designed off of this thing from Bad Channels. I'm just saying, because it looks like just a massive one. And so the alien takes over the station, like knocks Dan O'Dare and our little chunky friend, what's his name again? I can't remember. Chewie? I think it's Chewie. Sorry. Knocks them out. When they come to, the whole like station area where the DJ equipment is like covered in this like gross fungusy, like that, just the whole booth is just covered in this fungus that the alien is controlling. And so what we come to find out through, you know, some different things in the movie is that he's using Dan O'Dare's voice to hone in on different females in the Pahuda area. Oh yeah, did I say that? Yeah, this is all taking place in a place called Pahuda. I don't know where they came up with some of these names in here, y'all. This is just, we got Pahuda for a city, and Lump, that poor robot just named Lump. You know, all I can think about is like, you know, the United States of America, you know, song, She's Lump. Yeah, that's the only thing that I can think of when I think of that word, period, is just that song. It just automatically just starts playing in my head. So our first one to get honed in on is Miss Cookie. And so whoever's like, it hones in on women that are listening to the radio. And what happens is like when he hones in on them, they kind of go into this like weird trance. So she's like dancing on the diner bar, having this like full on like imaginary like performance piece with Ron Kill's band, you know, and she's just dancing, having a good time in her leather jacket, just going crazy on this bar. And then she disappears. And she shows back up in the DJ area in this little glass thing that's about probably 12 inches. Maybe not even that. So she shows up in this little glass container and she's all small and she's like, help, help. And Dan this whole time is just like, guys, turn off your radios. Don't listen to me. You know, and it's kind of like, I was talking to someone else about this, and it's kind of like, you know, back in the 50s, Orson Welles, you know, came on the radio and did that whole like War of Worlds. That's another thing that trips me up. Too many W's in something and I get all tongue-tied. He came on the radio and read that, and people freaked out. They freaked out because they thought that this alien invasion was something that was actually happening, when really it was just Orson Welles reading this, you know, tell to these people. Well, this is like that flipped version where it's actually happening and Dan is telling them, turn off your radio stations. This is the only way to, like, you know, save yourself. And no one is taking him seriously. No one is taking him seriously. They all think it's a joke. They all think it's a gag because that's the kind of radio DJ he is. He got fired from his last job because he was porking the, you know, traffic lady during the traffic time spot. Look, I don't know exactly what the, you know, what the words are that, you know, to exactly describe something, but you get me. He was doing the dirty during a time he shouldn't have been doing the dirty, and he got fired for it. Okay, back to the story. So our next one that he hones in on is poor little Bunny. And in the middle of band practice, nonetheless. And first off, I mean, I don't know. Do I got band kids out there that can tell me this? Have y'all had like practices in like full, like, uniforms in the gym at like the middle of the night? Because also, did any of your band teachers dress up in the same uniform that you did for practice in the gym? Because, just let me know. Comments. Let me know. Because I don't think that that's very accurate. I think that's a little weird, to be honest. Like a grown ass man in his like 50s or 60s, like dressing, like that for practice. So, Bunny has a hallucination, right? That band DMT is like playing in her, like, in her gym. And in her hallucination, like the color guard and the band, like everybody is into it. Everybody's like performing. This weird little geeky band dude who like is in love with her. Like he's like trying to like dance with her, but he's so awkward, y'all. He's just the most awkwardest thing. And it's a song of like something about touching yourself. It's not like the when I think about you, I touch myself. It's like their own little thing. If I could, I would share it with you guys, but like I said, I can't find it in anything other than this movie. So you're just gonna have to watch the movie and see how cool it is. I mean, like, they're one of those bands that don't look like they kind of fit together. I mean, the one guy who's playing the guitar is like in some overalls and barefoot, and instead of like a guitar strap, it's like a chain that's like on it with a padlock, with his long grungy hair. I mean, he was pretty cool. And the other one looked like a stepchild of like Bono's with that, like Kangol type hat on. But they're a good band. I might seem like I'm making fun of them, but the music was really good. So anyway, so Bunny's like, dancing, and she's, feeling it. And then she gets zapped and she ends up in one of those little tubes. Goodness. Like I said, Dan is trying to get people to turn off their radios. His friend, the engineer, tries to like make a break for it, and then the alien turns him into some like little like cocoon pod of fungus. It's really gross. Poor thing. So let's cut to the hospital, where we see the nurse is like putting up some disinfectant, like cleaner, and doing some other things. Not really like nurse things though. You would think that like the cleaning lady would take care of that. But so they have him they have the guy that, the sheriff took in. They have him on the slab, and the doctor has like cut off some of the fungus and put it in like a dish over on the other side of the room, to, I guess, get sent off for testing at some point. But then they noticed that like it started to like react to the music of the radio, because it was sitting right by the radio, and it was like it had like grown arms, and it was like moving and dancing to the music, which again, it's really gross. Like fungus, yuck. Anyways, so the sheriff like ends up like shooting at it and shooting out the radio. Yeah, but Nurse Ginger is our next to, end up getting in the glass jar. And it's funny because like she stripped down, to this. She really liked this like psycho metal, funk combination, because she took off her fucking nurse's uniform and she just in like a black teddy just dancing around. But when she gets transported into the glass vial, she still has her cart that she was pushing around with a disinfectant on it. Nobody else, the other two, like, transported with anything that they were carrying or holding, but she did. So, everyone's like starting to like, the sheriff is really getting mad at Dan O'Dare. Because he thinks that he's doing something to like cause all this, when really, it's Mr. Cosmo, the alien. So everyone kind of like mobs the station and they're trying to get in, but the alien has like used some kind of like a fungus force shield around the door, right? And they're like trying to like use the battering ram on it, and like some of the like fungus like and gets on the guys, and they're like, ah, and it's just like there, they can't get it off. They're gonna end up being like completely covered in it. So Dan notices that the alien has now set his eyes on Lisa, and he's like, no, Lisa, quit listening. And so like she's over there with, weird band dude from earlier, and he's like, Bunny. And then like he disappears. The alien wasn't quite on the mark. He got a boy instead, and he didn't like that, so he sent the boy back and tried again with Lisa. Well, Lisa had her, like, like the big cameras, the big TV cameras, like, how big they were in 92. They looked like they were bigger than her. Like, it looked like she shouldn't be able to carry that at all. So that gets, like, shrunk down and in there with her. So she's, like, trying to do a live, like, broadcast a segment. Flip has decided that he's gonna, like, go to Pahuta and, like, try to get, like, a scoop down there on what's really going on. Because he thinks that he's gonna, like, find Dan O'Dare in some kind of incriminating whatever. Anyways, so he goes and they like shoot to her, and he's like, what is this crap? What, her camera is shrunk down to like, like palm size for a normal person, like just in your palm. So you can kind of see Dan struggling with the alien-ish, kind of, I don't know. But like Dan realizes that like the disinfectant, like antifungal spray, like, will harm him, because he was able to get Chewie out like that. So like he's able to reverse and get 3 of the women out: Ginger, Lisa, and Cookie. They come out. All right. So now we got about, 5 people here to, like, help with the alien. So they're all, like, disinfectant spray. Well, I mean, they run out. It's not enough. But they are able to, kind of get the alien, I don't know what to say. I mean, they incapacitate him a little bit. I mean, get him, like, feeling, like, real woozy. Which, I mean, to be honest, if you were in a room with 5 disinfectant cans, like spray cans that were all going off at the same time, you'd feel woozy by the end of the cans too. That's a lot. I'd be passed out, not being able to breathe, because my allergies and stuff don't like it at all. But so then they puncture his suit. Well, turns out Mr. Cosmo isn't like, really like looks like that. He's like this 3-headed, like, weird snake alien thing. I'm not really 100% sure what exactly he is. But so, I mean, they get him to a point where he's kind of defeated, but then he transports himself back home. You know, and they're able to bust down the door and get out, and, you know, Flip's like, you know, did you get footage? And, you know, then she hands him the camera and she's like, you just have to figure out how to blow it up. But wait a minute. We've got Ginger, we've got Cookie, we got Lisa, we got Dan, we got Chewy, we got everyone except for Bunny. And we end it with Bunny still in a little jar, just screaming for help, for someone to come get her out. Poor little Bunny. I feel like that's like their equivalent of, like, you know, the promiscuous character like getting killed in the first like 10 seconds. Instead, like, the promiscuous character, well, one of them just gets left being 12 inches tall. Anyways, this movie was so fun, so funny. I mean, it was fantastic. And like I said, the music in it was super great. I mean, it had a wide range of music, like, to represent that time era, and not just like how some movies just like focus in on like one type of music to really like tell the story of the movie. They really, and you know, Full Moon doesn't really contract their music out, like, you know, get people, like, there's not a whole lot of big hits. It's normally like one composer that does all of the songs and, you know, everything. So it was nice to see that they were, you know, using some bands from, you know, out there in the wild, and then getting like one of the biggest classic rock bands, you know, to do the entire score, which, like, bravo, Full Moon, bravo. And like I said, I mean, I love Full Moon. I mean, you cannot go wrong with some Puppet Master, which I'll cover Puppet Master at some point, you know. I mean, maybe the one that they did, like, you know, when I was like in middle school-ish with Corey Feldman. Got to get some Corey Feldman on here because he's like one of my favorites. Don't judge. Do not judge me. But anyways, until next time, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and I hope that, you know, you enjoyed and you'll stick around to see what we've got cooking for next week. Good night, sinners.